You ever step off a van somewhere and realize, in an instant, that you don't belong? Not just that the place is strange, but that every set of eyes you might meet is set to ignore you from the start like you're air, or less. That's what hit Callie Voss the moment she stepped on a Falcon Crest, sun-bleached concrete. The heat was brutal, the silence even harsher. This wasn't any regular beseat, it was a fortress out in the desert, where ambition sweated through every flight suit, and the walls watched you back. Callie's uniform, gray and blank as the sky before a storm, told no one anything about her. No rank, no name, just another logistics misfile in a world where only pilots had stories worth hearing. She scanned her chip at the gate, got that little beep of reluctant acceptance, and pushed inside, not giving anyone the satisfaction of seeing nerves. They told her logistics people didn't linger near the flight rings. She nodded, kept walking. In truth, she'd landed here on a routing error she could have fought, but didn't. Sometimes the best way to understand a place is to just let it happen to you. The next day, she stood at the back of the operations bay, watching big screens flash storm descent protocols and fuel load calculations, half the stuff she knew by heart. When she offered a solution during briefing, the pilots laughed. One kid, all sharp jaw and legacy confidence, let blue electrolytes splash down her front and called her the janitor of their dreams. Phones flashed, capturing her humiliation, but she didn't even blink. Just kept moving. That uniform, the stain, it was like a badge. To them it said, outsider. To her, it was armor. By week's end, the base made it official SIM access for civilians. She got shuffled to manifest logs and supply checks. The SIM doors wouldn't open for her badge, and no one called her by name. At lunch, she sat alone, notebook open, ignoring the comments logistics Barbie, drone tech spy, all that nonsense. She wrote down everything, system patterns, mistakes, cut corners, her eyes always working. That spiral notebook was the only thing that mattered. Sometimes she'd catch the legendary cadet, Thornreal, smirking as she passed. One afternoon, he and the others blocked her from the group photo, aviators only. She stepped aside, facing the desert wind, letting them have their moment. They didn't realize she was studying every flaw in the rhythm of the place, from simulator cheat codes to the way hotshots skipped their checklists. But in silence, Callie saw everything. She wasn't there to fit in. She was there to understand. Nights found her tracing base maps in her bunk, plotting routes, marking maintenance vents, and overlooked corridors. The C-130, sitting in the auxiliary bay, always drew her eye, a real beast, ignored by the jet crowd but familiar as an old scar to her. She'd flown its sisters long before these cadets ever zipped a flight suit. No one asked what she knew, so she kept it to herself. The notebook thickened with data tank offset tables, heat fluctuation stats, hand-check corrections no sim jockey would care about. Every day, she ate alone, then mapped her world while the base slept. But here's the thing, sometimes the world shifts on a single failure, and suddenly all the titles and legacy names mean nothing. The storm rolled in hard one afternoon, thunder rumbling against the reinforced hangar doors as an alarm started to pulse slow, angry, then rising into a full-blown siren. 2 Abrams tanks were already loaded onto the C-130 for an emergency run to the southern ridge, where a joint operations group was about to be overrun. They had under an hour before everything went sideways. Then, chaos. Both C-130 pilots collapsed within minutes of each other, hit by radiation from a bad maintenance scanner. Medics scrambled. The window for the mission shrank by the second 42 minutes to get airborne or else. Commanders screamed for backup pilots, but none were even on the base. Not a single instructor had clearance for a loaded combat drop in a storm. The cadets stood frozen, thorn among them, jacket half-zipped, hands empty. That's suicide, he said, and no one disagreed. Monitors flashed red. Engineers yelled about static discharge and ramp hydraulics. Every backup plan hit a wall. The tension was so thick, it could have choked you. And all the while, Callie stood in the corner, silent as always, arms crossed, watching every number on the screen. The cargo sway was out of spec. The system was already running failure calculations. The room kept spinning until, finally, someone said it out loud. "We've got no one left." Callie didn't shout. She just said, "I can fly it." First there was laughter, then disbelief. "You even know which end lifts off?" One kid barked. She ignored them. "You've got a malfunction at 19 Delta, right rear ramp seal. The tanks need a reverse harness and manual trim. If you don't adjust midair, you'll lose balance and crash. You're already 2 points out of safe arc." Dead silence. A tech checker number. She was right, every detail. The commander stared at her like she'd sprouted wings. "Who the hell are you?" he finally asked. "Field evaluation, Tier 9, heavy transport. Ops Delta 6. The air changed. An aide confirmed her clearance was black-filed, but real. There was no one else. 19 minutes left. The commander gave the nod. She walked down her drama. Just focus. No one moved to help. The storm howled. Even Thorne looked on, arms folded, muttering, "She'll crack the tail." But no one tried to stop her. Callie suited up, checked every harness on those tanks, input her margins the old-fashioned way, radioed in her plan. Falcon Crest outbound, load secure, ET 32 minutes, one soul on board. The engines thundered, louder than the wind, as she taxied out alone. She held the brakes, felt the whole aircraft vibrate with energy, then punched it. The C-130 surged down the runway, the storm hammering at her wings. Takeoff was a knife's-edge wind, dust, every tolerance stretched. One tank's harness slipped midair, but she adjusted pitch and trim, muscle memory blending with calculation, and kept it steady. Still airborne, she radioed through static, calm as a lake. Landing was no less wild, no calms. Blackout strip, dust swirling like ghosts. She hit the runway solid, tanks locked down, everything green. One pilot. All cargo delivered. Outside, stunned soldiers ran to meet her. Back at base, everyone watched in disbelief. When she flew back, a crowd waited silent, uncertain, changed. The commander saluted. Thorne tried to apologize. Callie just met his gaze, then walked past, her silence heavier than any words. The cadets lined up, instructors and officers, not for ceremony, but because something fundamental had shifted. She'd shown them what competence looked like, real, raw, undeniable. They asked if she'd stay. "I wasn't meant to be here," she said, "but maybe now someone like me will be." She walked off into the desert, vanishing in the dust. Her bunk stayed empty for days. No nameplate removed, no new occupant. The only sign was a memo, Echo Runway designated for heavy craft drills, and a quiet plaque. "If you're good enough to fly it, you're good enough to be here." Callie's name wasn't on it. Didn't matter. The rules changed. Sim barriers fell. Tech backgrounds were invited to pilot. Some old guard cadets vanished from the program. The shift came not from orders, but from reckoning. At night, they whispered about her, the woman who flew through the storm when no one else would. Some said she was reassigned to secret tests in the mountains. Others thought they glimpsed her plane in the night sky. No markings, just a shadow over the clouds. One junior cadet, standing by the hangar, asked an older hand, "You think she'll come back?" The answer, she never really left. Somewhere, high above another storm, a pilot checked her heading and smiled at the sky. No need for titles. No need for medals. Callie Voss had proven that skill, resolve, and dignity matter more than any patch or legacy. She didn't wait for praise, she acted. And in that, she changed more than just the outcome of one desperate mission. She changed everyone who watched her do it. So if you're hearing this, take a minute. Think about the quiet ones around you. The ones you overlook. Sometimes the real strength, the courage that saves the day doesn't look like you expect. What would you have done? Where do you stand on who deserves a shot? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And let's talk about what real justice and community mean, because in the end, it's not about who gets noticed. It's about who steps up when it counts.